Former Greek finance minister and author Yanis Varoufakis has never been shy about expressing his opinions. So today, we invited him on the show to talk about a range of issues. We discussed the prospects of a new left party and its rocky start last week, as well as the idea of Elon Musk starting a new political party in the US. And we also wanted to get his views on the government's prescription of Palestine action and the subsequent arrest of demonstrators who broke the law to support the group on Saturday. And that is where things got a little bit risky for us. Let's take a look. I began by asking Yanis about the new left party being launched by Jeremy Corbyn and Zarah Sultana, and whether it matters whether some reports indicate that some people close to Corbyn weren't on board with Sultana's bid for co-leader. And how important is this moment for a new left-wing organisation? Here's what he had to say.
This Labour Party deserves to be ditched. I'm so happy that Zarah Sultana left. I mean, look at the way that this town government has been behaving. Despised and despising, voted for them. And they keep courting and flattering the people who never voted for them and never will. Even Blair, a very poor excuse for human nature, that he was more of dissent. People like Tony Benn, indeed, of Jeremy Corbyn within the Labour Party. Keir Starmer lacks the charisma of Tony Blair, shares the idle tendencies and the predilection for war crimes, but he lacks the charisma. So, to cut a long story short, look, I've known Jeremy Corbyn for a very long time. We've walked together on the streets. We have picketed together. We have appeared together. We're constantly coordinating our campaigns. Zarah Sultana I've met twice, but I can assure you that those two occasions were enough for me to know that she brings to this new outfit, to this new party, call it what you might, that which is absolutely necessary. And it's not just that she's a young woman and that she comes from an ethnic background, but she has an intensity and a caliber which inspires me. So I'm speaking for myself. So this is the right moment for a new party to leave behind the trail of disasters that Keir Starmer has brought upon the British working class, the British left, ever since he usurped the leadership of the Labour Party by claiming to be the continuity candidate of remaining faithful to the great Labour Party manifestos of 2017 and 2019. And in the end, he is proving a worse danger for the vast majority of the British people, not to mention world peace, than the Tories were. So I hope that the wind that blows into the sails of the new party turn out to be auspicious and that the initial hiccups are forgotten very soon.
I mean, how do you manage this moment where, of course, everything has been backroom negotiations so far in private, and now is the moment when you're letting the movement in? How do you absorb new members, new interest, new party democracy, while still having a very decisive and strong sense of strategy? So compared to Reform, for instance, Nigel Farage doesn't do party democracy, but he's a man of singular vision. How do you think that trade-off needs to be managed between strategy and, I guess, mass organizing, mass participation, mass democracy?
Allow me to comment first on the notion of Nigel Farage as a visionary, which I reject. He has no vision. He's just extremely adept at cottoning on to particular sensitivities and sensibilities of people who are desperate, who've been abandoned, who have been held back by the powers that be. And he, harvests very skillfully their anger in order to essentially acquire for himself power, which he will, with mathematical precision, use against the people that trust him. That's not a visionary. That's a Mussolini-esque kind of populist. Jeremy Corbyn is not that. And Zarah Sultana is not that. And none of the comrades who joined that party or will be joining that party. Now, to answer your question, however, Look, there are two models for kickstarting a new political movement, a progressive one, a socialist one. One is to do it in a very Stalinist, not ideologically, but in terms of organization lines, of being very careful as to who you let in, of effectively having bouncers at the door and checking the credentials of everybody who comes in. The problem with that is that from the word go, you begin by creating a hierarchy, an ironclad kind of thought police to ensure that the wrong people are kept outside. Now, this model, this concentrated model, has its benefits. You do avoid some of the pitfalls of the second model, which is the open model, of letting anyone in. And then, once they're in, going through lots and lots and lots of painful processes by which to weed out the people who should not have been allowed in. Because, let's face it, whenever a new party is created, and I have this experience here in Greece, all sorts of slightly deranged people who have been looking for an opportunity to enter the political scene come in. There are people who are enterists, and I don't mean Trotskyites, I mean people who come in order to do damage to the party. There will always be that. So there are pros and cons for both those types of organization. I go for the latter. It's painful. There will be a backlash when it appears that some people who speak for the party, let's say in 1 or 2 of time, turn out to have been, as I said, enterists with ill intent, not well-meaning enterists. But no openness, and there is no substitute for the wild beauty of a genuine grassroots democracy within the movement.
Picking up on this thought of wild beauty, Corbynism, when it was at its peak in 2017, secured 40% of the vote. And it was a wildly optimistic time. It felt good to be part of the movement at that point. Through the 2019 defeats, through the smears, it feels very different now. So I suppose I've got 2 questions for you. One is it possible to revive a sense of optimism when many activists will be hardened and perhaps rendered cynical through those experiences that led up to the 2019 defeat? And the second question is whether it's inevitable that any new left project will be on a much smaller scale than Corbynism in 2017. And even if it is on that smaller scale, do you think it can still be effective?
It will have to be on a smaller scale because, let's face it, we on the left, we don't get that many opportunities like the ones we got here in 2015 here in Greece, which my leadership essentially binned. And the result is that we're now struggling to take off again. But that's okay. That's okay because, you see, the capitalist techno-feudal system that we live in cannot stop itself from generating larger and deeper and more toxic crises. So there will be a moment quite soon when there will be a lot of people out there who will be looking for a program. They will be looking for a group of people that seem to be genuine. And at that point, something that may start small now will grow in significance and maybe who knows when, but the time will come. It's a bit like surfing. You have to be ready to catch the wave. You're not going to create the wave. The wave will come when the wave comes. These are the forces of history that will determine that. But, you know, in the exploitative model that we live, society we live, the wave will come. So it is important not to have the Starmerites in control of the party that will take that wave and destroy it or use it against the people. It is important to have a party like the one that is now in the offing. And you know what, Ash, I think that it is very important to show to the people out there, even to those who are seemingly skeptical at the moment and who are sitting on the fence, to show to them that there is a different way of doing politics, that there are minimum ethical standards, that you can have decision-making which is effective without rigid, patriarchal hierarchies. This is why I think that this combination of my older colleague, a man who's been in the barricades for so very long, has proven his credentials as a genuine, honest broker for peace, for anti-austerity, for solidarity, for international cooperation, together with a young woman carries with her a complete kind of oomph, of oeuvre, that they can, share the leadership and to do it in a way that breaks breaks the mold and shifts us away from the type of leadership that Keir Starmer has shown.
I want to move on to US politics, if that's okay. So Elon Musk and Donald Trump, they couldn't stay in alignment for very long. And now Musk has announced his intention to form a third party. Do you think that this signals a wider conflict between Trump and, the people who you call in your book the techno-feudalists? Or is this a product because of Elon Musk's, shall we say, unique combination of ego and entitlement?
Oh, I see no rift between the techno-feudal cabal and the Donald Trump is winning, hands down, courtesy of the Democratic Party. If you look at the two bills, very significant bills that he's managed to put through Congress, the big, beautiful bill, which is essentially a gigantic giveaway to the techno-feudal lords and to other kinds of oligarchs. They are laughing all the way to the bank. They love the Donald for this. Even Elon Musk loves him for this. And the second bill, remember the Genius Act? Essentially, and I really would love to alert our viewers and listeners of Novara to the immensity of the Genius Act, essentially by legitimizing what is called stable coins. I'm not going to go into the technicalities of this. It's a kind of cryptocurrency which is pegged to the US dollar. By turning them into instruments of the state, essentially, he's privatizing the dollar. And that is a magnificent gift to big tech. Some of you may remember that some years ago, Mark Zuckerberg tried to create his own currency. He called it the Libra or Diem or something like that. He wanted to have his own cryptocurrency so that people could trade on Facebook, on WhatsApp, through it. And Wall Street conspired to kill it. Now Trump is coming with the Genius Act, and he is legitimizing that. So no, the techno-feudal ruling class loves Donald Trump. Elon Musk had his ego bruised because he harbored over-optimistic expectations as to how much he could manipulate the Donald. This is just two spoiled brats fighting it out. It doesn't have much significance. I think in the end, Elon Musk is going to just roll over. I don't think he has what it takes in order to have any significant political impact. And in the end, the Donald Trump presidency, or should I say, a royal cabal, are going to find a way of roping him back in.
I mean, you seem very skeptical of the possibility that Elon Musk's third party could pose a real risk to Trump. But I mean, whether it's tariffs or whether it was the possibility of America being dragged into a drawn out conflict with Iran, there are potential rifts and schisms within the MAGA coalition. What ones do you think pose the biggest danger to Donald Trump? And is there any way for the American left to exploit that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The only good thing about the fascists and the establishment is that they're full of contradictions that we of the left should be able to exploit. But the contradiction is not between Donald Trump and Elon Musk in the case of the MAGA movement. The contradiction, you may recall, was between Steve Bannon, who represents the genuinely populist, much more nuanced and smart faction of American fascism. So it was Steve Bannon versus Elon Musk. And at the beginning, Donald Trump was much closer to Elon Musk. He was, I don't know why, he was very impressed by the rockets and the cars and all this. And that. And Steve Bannon played the waiting game and essentially managed uh, to elbow Elon Musk out. Now, the great contradiction, speaking now as a political economist, as a Marxist, is class-based. Here we have a genuine contradiction within the MAGA movement. So, Ash, on the one hand, Donald Trump is waxing lyrical about the blue-collar workers in Indiana, in the Midwest, that supported him and on whose votes he relied in order to return to the White House. He talks a good game when it comes to tariffs, the idea being to bring back manufacturing to the United States, and he's going to bring back manufacturing to the United States. I don't know how much, how many jobs, what quality jobs he will do. He will manage to magnetize back to the US. He will, though. But let's say, and here's the crux of the contradiction in the MAGA movement. Let's say he succeeds to eliminate the trade surplus. Sorry, I'll say that again. Let's say that he succeeds in eliminating the trade deficit of the United States through his tariff program, through devaluing the dollar, through stable coins, through the various tricks that he is using. Well, immediately, the flow of foreigners' capital into Wall Street is going to stop. Why? Because all this money that floods into New York from abroad, and has been since the 1970s, it was the flip side of the same coin being the American trade deficit. To understand that, think, every time Americans bought Mercedes-Benzes and clothes from China and whatever, goodies from abroad, they were paying with dollars. The dollars were going to foreign capitalists. Those foreign capitalists were then sending these dollars back to Wall Street for recycling. And those dollars became American government debt, equities, shares, and very importantly, real estate. Remember, Donald Trump is a realtor. So once you eliminate the trade deficit of the United States, you eliminate this tsunami of capital that comes into New York. So if he succeeds to serve the interest of the blue-collar white working class that voted him in, by eliminating the trade surplus and bringing enough manufacturing jobs back to the Midwest, he will make some rentiers like himself, some people in the real estate industry in Wall Street, very cross. And at that point, he will have to choose between two different social classes, whom to betray. Betray the working class or betray his mates in the financial community and the real estate business. Now, I have no doubt that he will betray the working class. This is a great opening for the left. I don't need to say more on this.
Well, I've got one final question for you, and I think it flows on quite nicely from what you just said. In terms of American socialists and progressives, people who are politically active, organizers, strategists, what should they be doing to prepare for the 2028 presidential elections?
Leave the Democratic Party. Do what Zarah Sultana did, what Jeremy Corbyn is doing. Get out of the center-left pretend progressive party. Let's face it, the Democratic Party of the United States is never going to tolerate an AOC, a Mamdani, a Bernie Sanders. We saw that in 2016 and in 2020. They prefer Donald Trump to be in the White House than somebody like Bernie Sanders. They will do anything to ensure that the toxic right-winger, and that's the Democratic Party I'm talking about, wins rather than have somebody from the left wing of their own party win. They are the party of Wall Street. They are the party of most of big tech, even though big tech now, well, kicking and screaming, they have embraced the Donald. So my message to the Democratic Socialists of America is, I know that when you're facing the first past the post system, this is the problem you have in the United Kingdom. You are facing an Everest, the Himalayas, in terms of the electoral effort you will have to put into climbing it. But it's worth it, because nothing you do in the Democratic Party will ever lead to anything other than a betrayal from within the National Democratic Committee.
Now, did you notice something missing there? That's right, the entire section on Palestine action. That's because it was a part of my interview with Yanis Varoufakis that, unfortunately, I'm unable to show you at this point in time. I asked him for his views about the prescription of Palestine Action as a terrorist organisation, and after consulting with lawyers, we're not yet confident that we can publish them without putting him or Novara media staff at risk of arrest by counter-terrorism police. But we're not giving up. We're still seeking further legal advice, and we stand by our right as journalists to report newsworthy comments made by a noteworthy person. But this speaks to something we've said since the beginning. Prescription under the Terrorism Act and how broadly the legislation is drafted means that the state can go after anyone they deem as supporting or being reckless as to whether they cause others to support Palestine action. There is no journalistic exemption. Reporting freely carries the risk of large fines and even up to 14 years imprisonment. We at Novara think that the prescription of Palestine action was a terrible, politically motivated decision taken in bad faith by Keir Starmer's government in an attempt to crush pro-Palestinian activism. And we remain steadfast in our opposition to it. Now, Yanis Varoufakis, if you listen to the beginning of his comments, didn't think that the early teething pains would matter that much in the grand scheme of things when it comes to this new Zarah Sultana, Jeremy Corbyn party. But over the weekend, we saw WhatsApp messages from the new party organising committee being leaked to right-wing media, and there does seem to be a real climate of mistrust amongst senior figures. This is something that we're going to cover in a lot more detail on Novara Live in the days and weeks to come, but the one thing I'll say is this. If you're going to start a new party, no matter what it's called, no matter who's leading it, if you're starting from the point of mistrust and leaks, you're not going to get anywhere fast. That's like the worst of the Corbyn years between 2017, 2019, all over again. The new thing has really got to feel new. And that starts with treating people a bit better.